you're the only person I know who bought one of these new and still has it.
Yep, that's true.
Big investment for a young bloke?
Huge, huge. At that time I'd just come out of an apprenticeship and I was still living at home. It's the only way I could probably afford it.
Yeah.
And took out a loan with the RACV because it was over $5,000 at that time for a, and this is 72, late 72, but it was a 71 model I was buying new, about to be superseded. Because of that I got a 10% discount, but even so it was a huge amount of money for a young bloke, whereas the most expensive Holden at the time was in the 3,000s. Well, the thinking was just prior to buying the car, I went for a ride in a friend of mine, he had a Jaguar, an E-Type Jaguar, and I thought, yep, I kind of like this, I reckon this is pretty good. And I was telling my dad about it, and my dad was at that time manager of pre-delivery at Datsun in the city.
Okay.
So he said, well, if you think the the Jaguar E-Type's good, you might want to take a test run in the Japanese E-Type, which is the 240Z. I said, oh yeah, okay. So he arranged the test drive for me, and I was sold then. That was it. This one come up that had been in Ballarat for quite some time on the showroom floor and hadn't been sold, and they were keen to sell it because of a new model coming out.
What was your impression when you first clapped eyes on it? Because it's a bit different when it's your car, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, because Dad pulled a few strings at that time. We had the mags, the not these ones, but we had the original Globe mags, I think they were, on the car. So that sort of set it aside, right from the start. So not only was it a brand new 240Z, it had the alloy wheels as well. So it was an interesting experience because at that time, it was fairly special. Like it was something new on the road that we hadn't seen before. Yeah. And it was a head turner then, that's for sure.
What was it like to drive new?
Oh, wonderful! Yeah. It's always been a bit of a trick to driving these things with the gearboxes. The selector of the gearbox is a bit wishy-washy in the early ones. It's got a 260 box in it now, which has improved that. But when it was new, it didn't matter. You adapted to it, didn't you? Like any little difficulty you might have had, you lived with it. You got around it because it was such a great car, and it had so many features and went like the wind, and it was just everything that a young bloke could want, really. Oh, well, over the years I did everything that a young bloke does with his car, like I put air horns on it, and had front spoilers and rear spoilers, and put in a wild cam at one stage, and went through all those phases, and had little rebuilds along the way, and a new paint job which was slightly more acceptable colour than the original mustard colour, which was a bit of a baby poop brown, people used to say, and rag me about that, but I didn't have a choice in that, but I didn't mind the colour, I thought it was okay. But anyway, so little things like that, and then hill climbs and motorcanas and all that sort of stuff, and sprint meetings. Did a lot of damage to it at Morwell Hill Climb early in the piece, which devastated me. It was repaired, not very well. It went through a couple of other changes, like engine changes I went through, like I had a suck-through system turbocharge when I went through the turbocharger phase, and then I wanted to get involved in the fuel injection phase, so fuel injected it and kept the turbo, and it's like that now, but it's just been refined a bit more with a new turbo and a better system all round. So it's had a colourful existence, but it's been part of my life for a long time. It's been great. I know a lot of people also put Chev engines in them. That was a V8s, and I wanted to avoid that. I didn't really want to start cutting things away to do that, so I thought I'd just like to improve the performance and maybe make it a little bit more modern, even although it had a lot going for it in 71. The current specs now is it's still the 2.4, the original numbers matching 2.4, and it has latest, or one of the later Garrett water-cooled turbos now. Is fuel injected and intercooled. That's pretty much the engine modifications. 260 gearbox, uprated clutch, because I just used to tear the guts out of the clutch as it was. So Stuart Wilkins in New South Wales helped me with that, and advised me on what to do with that. And it's got an R200 limited slip diff from the Skylines. And then I had trouble with the rear axles then. The rear half shafts couldn't sort of quite handle that, so Stuart again built some half shafts for me, some custom half shafts, and we put them in. That was good. Suspension's been upgraded, there's coil-over shocks now, Coney adjustables, 4-spot calipers on the front, discs on the rear. That's sort of tidied it up a bit, you know, and tightened it up a bit. So, and the stopping power is fantastic. So, yeah, it's pretty much got the full package now, and I think that it's up there with the current performance of the sports cars around. We know what power it's making. We're getting around about 300 horsepower at the rear wheels.
You've got a few other nice toys that you play with, but I gather this is still the favourite?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I could never leave it now. There's one stage quite a long time ago that I thought about it, and I was toying with the idea of selling it when probably financial situations, and that was in the late 80s when we had that recession time there where interest rates were up at about 17%.
Yeah.
Then it was an option to sell it. I resisted that, fortunately, and no, it's not for sale now.
Yeah.
I'm not really interested in what the value of the car is now. It's simply not for sale.